All right, looks like we're live. First ever pilot episode of No Financial Limits NFL Coaching Ghost. So for those of you guys just joining us, looks like we got a couple people in here right now. Like I said, this is the pilot episode, something that me and Ghost have been talking about doing for a while. I'm really excited. Name of the show is No Financial Limits, and basically we're going to be trying to talk about it all, whether it be stocks, cryptocurrency, other investment strategies, sports betting, fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, whatever it is. And, as we go through this, if it's something that you guys want to see us talk more about or something that maybe we skipped, be sure to throw it out there.
Yeah, man. We're excited to be here, man. As we see this chat fill up, man, it's nice to see you, Scotty Z, co-creator, Ross Lowe, Crypto Cello, DJ Tardis, the Waffle Maker. Dan, you're not a golfer. Y'all always show us love, man. We appreciate you. We're excited for the pilot, man. We're going to start off with what? Let's roll with the warm-up since we're going with the NFL football theme. Let's talk about it, right? So it's the first pilot. We want to give you guys kind of an understanding of what we expect moving forward as the season progresses in the NFL itself as well. So first things first, in the warm-up segment, we're going to always touch base on some of the topics and try to give you somewhat of a time reference so you guys know what to expect as far as when we start rolling. First things first, the show itself, no financial limits. I know I dropped a little snippet on my Twitter today. I want to make it very clear. This is not financial advice. This is strictly for entertainment purposes. Coach and myself are excited to have fun, to kind of go through everything that we've gone through on our journey and hopefully shed some light on some different realms as far as making money goes. And I'll tell you like this, whether y'all decide to go against us, whether y'all decide to go with us, I promise you we won't be offended either way, as long as you guys take some fun from this channel, man, and give yourself an evening stream right before kickoff on Monday nights, man, is where it's going to be at. So we'll talk about what? Digital currency, real estate. We'll talk about stocks. We'll talk about football itself. So today's going to be a little different, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. And like you said, once we get this rolling, I mean, if people are loving it, we're going to keep it going. And the plan is to do it every Monday before Monday Night Football. So we get started around this time and just run the show right up until kickoff. And again, like Go said, talk about whatever it is. I mean, could be the hot stocks of the day, maybe a parlay for the coming week, whatever it may be, and always leave comments on the videos on what you want to see more of.
Absolutely. So to tie in with this, Coach and I were talking about it off channel, and we understand that during the regular season, we're going to have some things in play. So this is our first pilot. Next week, it's going to be Monday at 4 o'clock every single time, except next week. Next week is Labor Day weekend, so we're working with a Tuesday on that particular week, which will be technically our preseason. And then the following week, we'll go right back to week one, where we'll be back on the official start of the season. So today, since it's a lot of things change in the football season, the last half hour of the show from 4:45 to 5:15 Pacific Standard Time, we're probably going to go more in the realm of fantasy. I know I had a draft yesterday. I know Coach has a draft come Labor Day. So we'll be talking about some of the hot picks, high draft picks, who you can maybe get later on down the road, sleepers, and maybe even our top players this week. I know that's one thing we definitely want to touch base on.
Cool. So where we starting today? I know you said we're doing is it the coin toss or coin toss? Okay.
Coin toss. You got a coin?
No.
I just thought of it too. If we don't have coins right now, we'll make sure to have one before. But this is what we're going to do from now on, so you guys are aware. In the beginning of the segment, we're going to do a coin toss. Whoever wins the coin toss gets a chance to kick or receive. If you kick, you're going to kick off the show with what exactly topic you want. It could be left field. It could be something that's a hot topic. It could legitimately be anything. Go Ravens, DJ Tardis. Okay. All right. We're getting started off the right way, DJ Tardis. Let me tell you, we play y'all twice a year. Last time we won the Super Bowl, we beat you 3 times that year. Who's got the last laugh now?
So Ghost is obviously the Steeler fan in here. All right. I mean, so here's what we'll do then. I'm going to defer. We'll act like I
Okay.
won. I'm gonna defer to Ghost.
Okay, so you receiving, huh? I'll
Okay.
talk about digital currency since that's
Okay.
something that's been kind of in the limelight, so to speak. So I've been in digital currency for some time. I'd probably say a little bit November, December. So I'm still new to digital currency. I think February was when things finally started getting validated account wise and things of that nature. And I was finally able to pick up some stuff. So I'll say this to start it off with the digital realm. I believe personally, kind of the concept of the show, No Financial Limit, I believe in diversification. I've been saying this on every stream I've ever been on, which isn't much, you and Tar Heels, but maybe 7, 8 shows deep. And I always talk about diversification. This is how I was taught as far as investment wise goes. It's not just diversification within portfolios that I've touched base on. In my opinion, it's also important to diversify your finances outside of portfolios. So for me, real estate's a big thing for me. Stocks are a big thing for me, obviously. And then, not for nothing, digital currency. There's a lot of different things you can go into from a digital currency thing with inflation. I was talking to my boy P. He's in Tijuana. A Bitcoin in Tijuana is still a Bitcoin in the US. You don't have to pay the difference in conversions and things of that nature. And not for nothing, I really think that in the long haul, digital currency will ultimately be valued higher. There's supply and demand, just like there is in stocks, Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like this, where they're only making so many. And as they flush out and go through their wallets and what have you, and you're left with some getting trimmed, some coins getting trimmed, it does make the value of the coin that much, worth more. I look at it like land in the digital world. That's the best way to describe it. It's like land in the digital world for those of you that don't have any digital currency. Bitcoin versus Ethereum. I'll talk about this all day, but I'll make it brief. There's always been the argument they're the closest comparable. Bitcoin's like the OG. Ethereum's kind of, next up in line, kind of like the GME and the AMC of the stock world, right? Ethereum, in my opinion, is going to be more green energy, green sectors, because of the way they're developing, what it costs as far as energy to develop everything. So I believe Ethereum actually outperforms Bitcoin from a percentage gain moving forward.
From this point forward, right? Because I think, the biggest thing, there's thousands of coins out there. And I mean, myself included, I'm not really like huge on cryptocurrencies, but I've always held some. And I know I think I've said it on my streams before, like Bitcoin was one that I've just, whenever I have a chance, maybe once or twice a month, maybe once a week at some points, I would just put $100 into Bitcoin, and just keep going. To me, like Bitcoin always, because I don't know enough about it, always seemed like the safest play because, it there's a cap on how much can be produced. It's not like limitless. And I mean, there's so many thousands of cryptocurrencies out there. What do you think are kind of like the safest plays? Not even so. I get what you're saying from a percentage standpoint that Ethereum's going to go higher than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is only going to go so high, right?
Right.
From where it's at now. But what else do you think besides like a Bitcoin, Ethereum? What other ones do you think are safe?
So I'll tell you what's in my wallet, and I'll tell you each one that's in my wallet was some form of a strategy at one point. So we'll talk about things like Doge first off, right? Doge, the godfather himself to Bitcoin, to Doge being Elon. I like Tesla. I followed Elon. I like CLOV. I followed Chamath. So, I did listen to a lot of the things that they were under the impression of with some of these coins. And I think for something like Doge, because it's almost limitless, it's unlimited. I think that it is, how do you say it? It is concerning to invest into something like that when you're in a position like, well, how does it work? If supply and demand is not involved, what happens? And so when you start off like at the Dogecoin, I got Dogecoin at 6 cents and I bought 12,000 of them. And I've sold 2,000 of them. I got 10,000 of them for free. Got paid probably like 700 for them. And I'm just letting those 10,000 roll. I'm not going to keep dropping into Doge, that's just like my free roll. And I think with digital currency, that's probably the safest way, is to kind of, purchase little by little as it drops, maybe buy a little bit more. But my crypto wallet that I'm big on, of course, is Bitcoin and Ethereum. I got more Ethereum than anything. I probably have 50% investment into Ethereum, 25% in Bitcoin, and then the rest is scattered over the course of, we got ARK, Pancake Swap, Doge, Cardano, which is ADA, which is a big pumper. Binance, I think that platform is very successful. They'll make a lot of money. Tezos and Cosmos. Those are like my top picks. They all have something, some form of strength. That's why I kind of like that. It's very diverse. And like I said, when some of them go up, they pretty much trend the same way. When you look at GameStop, you look at AMC, you look at CLOV even, and a lot of people keep bringing up the fact that they're kind of parallel. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing with digital currency, to be quite honest with you. There's one play that I made that's more of a gamble, which is SHIB. To me, that's one of the most gamble things I've ever done, but the amount of money I put into it. SAFEMOON is another one. SAFEMOON is one that I believe is a cool concept, right? They kind of program you to hold. So the more you hold SAFEMOON, when people leave SAFEMOON, those coins that are burned kind of get distributed to the people that are holding. So I thought that was kind of a cool philosophy on the whole 8 strong, hodl strong,
So do you have SAFEMOON?
I that's the only one I haven't got into yet. I don't have SAFEMOON yet, but I'm definitely going to. Like, that's my next little.
Because I'm not really into crypto, like you said. I mean, I'm very interested in it, but only things that I own right now is Bitcoin, XRP, which I think XRP, just from the little research that I've been doing, that I just started looking into probably within the last month or so. And that was based off some recommendations by some friends who were really deep into crypto. Told me to get into XRP and then SAFEMOON. So I do have some SAFEMOON that I bought on a recommendation of some friends. And so the way it works is you gotta you buy the SAFEMOON, right? And it's crazy because, like, let's say you own, I don't know, 1 million SAFEMOON, and then you look like a couple days later you might own like 1,003,000, and you look a couple days later you own 1,010,000. It's like you're constantly getting it because, like you said, I think in order to sell, I forget what the percentage is because I've never done it, but in order to sell, basically what they do is they tax you, a certain percentage, like 10%. So if you tried to sell $10,000 worth of this, you're only getting 9,000 out. That other $1,000 worth of SAFEMOON gets distributed amongst other SAFEMOON holders, or something along those lines is what I was told when I bought it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll check it out. So I bought a little bit and I've been watching it. And I mean, it hasn't really done much, but who knows? You know what I mean? I figure.
I think when those zeros start to knock off, I think that's when it starts really making sense. And you never know. I mean, like I said, with digital currency, that's more of a strategic play for me, that if there is inflation, if there is, an effect on the actual dollar itself, I know that currency will at least kind of offset some of the inflation concerns. But that it goes back to diversification, right? This guy and the Browns want to hit the Super Bowl, huh?
So we got like 4 or 5 Browns fans in here. I keep popping up. Everyone keeps throwing their NFL teams on there, and
I love it.
That's like co-creators, like the 4th or 5th person that's mentioned the Browns now.
I love it. So that was my coin toss for today. A little bit of digital currency. I think as we get a little deeper into it moving forward, I think it's important. Like Coach said. If you get a little bit of Bitcoin, you get a little bit of Ethereum, I think that goes a long way. I think the biggest thing, and I'm going to put it on camera because I have sworn by this, I read between the lines on a lot of information, and I kind of make the best decision possible based upon the knowledge. And when Tesla released the statement that they're no longer accepting Bitcoin temporarily, and Bitcoin crashed afterwards, he had mentioned a percentage, less than 1% of what it costs from an energy standpoint of Bitcoin were some of the coins that he was interested in using possibly for Teslas down the road. So one of my biggest, not predictions, but theories is I believe he's gonna accept Ethereum. And so that's one of my biggest plays, that because they're trying to make it more mandatory that you invest in a green technology. I think Ethereum is actually one of the soonest that'll get adopted. And I think it'll be as soon as the end of this year, to be honest with you. Maybe not Tesla per se, but I know that there's going to be a lot of people accepting Ethereum. And that's why I think the growth potential is will be more substantial than Bitcoin. I saw I Am Idiot said his whole life is in Ethereum and CLOV. And I want to remind him that 50% of my digital's in and 50% of my stocks are in. Both of those too. So I guess I'm an idiot right there with you, my man.
I got before we stop the topic of crypto, I got a question for you because it seems like know you've been in this a lot. So I know you said Ethereum, I'm assuming that's going to be my answer to my first question. But so if you had to pick two crypto plays right now, one being kind of a safe, more of a safer, less riskier crypto play for a long-term investment, what would it be? And then my second question would be kind of your risk lotto ticket, throw one in and see if it could eat up some zeros. You know what I mean? Because there's kind of two ways of looking at it.
No brainers. Ethereum for sure. I think I'm getting more bang for my buck, right? Bitcoin, I mean, it's like you grab one coin and there's 50 racks. Whereas to Ethereum, you spend 45 racks, you might be able to get yourself 15 of them. So from that standpoint, and from everything I've read on Ethereum and the green technology and it being mandatory for specific institutions to invest in a green technology, I think Ethereum has the edge. And I think by the year's end, we'll see a higher percentage of increase than we would see on Bitcoin up until the end of year. I think that's number one. Number two, I also believe that in the grand scheme of things, if I'm holding long term, which I am for Ethereum, I think that is that's the safest bet for me. If I'm picking one digital currency for the long haul and that I feel is safest, to me, it's Ethereum. I think it's less volatile than Bitcoin as well. It doesn't go from 50 to 30, although it can go from 35 to 16. I don't think we'll see that anymore now that summer's played out and it's kind of found its base, so to speak. So I think it's less volatile also. Risk factors. So I would say riskiest would be SHIB, Shibu, whatever it is, SHIB. That's my riskiest play. However, I want to do SAFEMOON, which I don't think is as risky because as we talked about that burn. But right now, my riskiest play in the digital realm is for sure SHIB. It's like 0.0000007 cents a coin. It's insane. Yeah. And I have billions of those things. So I'm like, make it to a quarter and I'll be a happy man.
Yeah. No way. I get it. Real quick. What so Dan asked the question, and I mean for me, just because, I feel like a lot of these coins that I've gotten into, so like I've had Coinbase forever. That's always been the wallet, but they don't always have everything, right? So like, I mean, I've had Coinbase probably for almost 8 years or something, and I've never had any issues with them. Seems like a pretty decent platform, but I've also had to use Trust Wallet to go in and get my, my SafeMoon, and now I got, I think, Uphold to get XRP. So what? What's your what would you say is the better platform, wallet? To me, they all kind of seem the same, but that's because I don't day trade them. I just buy them, hold them, and then sell them.
Right. So, I mean, we could look at just like from the holistic approach, Coinbase is public, right? So, that they got a lot more eyes on them. So they got to be a lot more strategic with what they're allowing to kind of hit the app before you can just start purchasing, because there are a lot of hustles out there, SHIB being one of them. But I actually like crypto.com. I like to me, crypto.com. I don't have Robinhood. No disrespect to anyone that has Robinhood. I think the actual, the user-friendly way about Robinhood is what makes it make sense for individuals that are learning how to trade for the first time or just got into it. And I kind of look at crypto.com in a similar manner where it's super easy. It's super you're clicking, you're touching, and you see what it is. So I personally like crypto.com for that reason, but I hear a lot of good things about Coinbase. I've never really played with it. The one thing I will say that's my beef, and maybe you can help me out since you have Coinbase, I don't like the fact that I have to actually make an Excel spreadsheet and put each time I've ever DCA'd on a digital currency to even find out what my average is and find out what my break-even threshold is. And, you know, it makes it very difficult. So for me, I literally have an Excel spreadsheet that I update, you know, once a week or once a month when I'm kind of trying to see what coin is actually I'm up on and what coins I'm actually down on, because it's just very misleading on the way it's kind of presented. And that's one thing I have under, you know, that I don't like about crypto.com that maybe Coinbase does, and I just am missing something.
I'll have to look at it. I just pulled it up just to see kind of if it does keep in my average and all that. So I'll do some research. That could be something that we talk about. I'm gonna put that on a topic for next week. Wallets and we'll get some. Because I think that's a good question. You know, along with the whole crypto conversation, like you brought up Robinhood. I've never used Robinhood, but I have a lot of friends who do. My only concern with trading crypto on Robinhood is that I don't believe, and I could be totally wrong, I don't believe you actually own the coins that you purchase on Robinhood. And the reason being is I don't believe that it's a wallet. You know, like, because if it was a wallet, that means I should be able to say, hey, Ghost, you know, what's your, I'm going to send you some Bitcoin right now. Give me your, you know, you can't do that with Robinhood. So I think what they're doing is, you know, kind of like, okay, you buy a Bitcoin, they're giving you this, like, they're showing it in your portfolio. Yeah, they're showing it in your portfolio, and they're basically betting against you. If Bitcoin goes up now, they have to hold one on the background. You know what I mean? It's almost like market makers hedging options at that point. You know, they're just giving you, you know, and I mean, it's still worth what it's worth. But I also know that a lot of my friends have complained that, you know, in the middle of these like big spikes, they haven't been able to sell. It's like Robinhood, they, you know, their things down. They can't get in there. They can't buy. They can't sell. There's like all these problems with it sometimes when the crypto's actually moving.
So for me, Robinhood, I got it right off top just to kind of see what the rage was. But I had already a platform I've been using the whole time I've ever traded. And when Robinhood put a halt and there was no buy button for GME, that right there for me was enough to just run clear. I will never use that platform. It's no disrespect to them. They'll probably do very well being publicly exchanged, and they'll probably make a lot of money because they have ways of making money, sure. But for me, that's not the way this works. Like, you shouldn't be able to control when I buy or sell unless it's like aftermarket or something. And you know, and to me, that was just the grossest thing I've ever seen. So I'll never support that platform. I don't care if they offer me money. I'd never support that platform personally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, crypto.com for me. So when I got Robinhood to kind of see what it was, you want to know what the first free stock they gave me was?
What's that?
AMC.
Well, you know what's crazy is again, like I said, I've never used it, but a lot of people, you know, because I've been in GameStop for since early January. But you know, early on, a lot of people, I remember saying that was GameStop was the first, that was their free one that they. So I really think there's more to it too. Like, they were giving away GameStop, they were giving away AMC, and you know, I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion, but yeah, it just seems a little weird.
For sure.
Not to change subjects or anything, but while we're talking about it, what's that? I was gonna say, not to change subjects, but while we're talking about wallets, just moving into the stock realm, software. I know you said you don't use Robinhood, neither do I. What do you use? I feel like, especially since I've started streaming now, I've dipped my toes in all kinds of different platforms, trying to find the right one that works with, you know, with the video and all this other stuff. And, but you know, like, what do you use? Who do you use to trade stocks with?
So the person that I'm really close with, he just said, look, use E-Trade. So I've been on E-Trade since the gates, and I've never had any issues on E-Trade. Not one. I mean, everything's been really smooth. Even when GameStop frenzy was going on and I was actually swing trading it in the middle of all this cluster, you know what? I never had any issues. For me, I just noticed when there was a lot of platforms that took away the buy button, I was like, how can I sell this then? And that to me is why I even bailed on GameStop. I was like, if I can't sell it, I mean, if
Yeah.
no one's buying it, I can't sell it. So it just bothered me. So E-Trade for me, a lot of people complain because it's a little bit more complex than I guess like an average one or whatever. But I absolutely love it. But it's also what I learned on.
That is that the same as Scottrade or something like that?
I think Ameritrade, Scottrade, E-Trade, I think they're all pretty similar.
Okay.
But I'm
different,
not
but different companies, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So I started. I started with E-Trade. God, this must have been early 2000s. First brokerage account I ever had. I was probably like 20 years old, 21 years old, something like that, and it was through E-Trade. And then, but once I kind of got into trading and everything else, I switched over probably about 9 years ago to TD Ameritrade, and I've never had any issues with them. I love the software. The Thinkorswim platform that they have, to me, is the best mobile app around in terms of like what you can do and trading options and getting real-time data and all that kind of stuff. But then about 2 years ago, I remember hearing that they were going to get bought out by Charles Schwab. And so immediately I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my Thinkorswim. And just to kind of screw around and you know, see what Schwab was about, I went and opened up a second brokerage account with Schwab and started playing around with their software. I even called them like, hey, when you guys finally take over, am I going to be able to use my Thinkorswim on Schwab? And they're like, yeah, you know, once we finally complete the merger, which I think should be sometime this year or something, they're going to transfer everybody's brokerage accounts over. But they're going to do it. But the Schwab software is pretty cool too. It's called Street Smart Edge, and I really like the options trading in there, and I really like the information that they have and the speed of the software. But their mobile app stinks. It's terrible to try to, you know, I mean, you try to go online and trade with Schwab. It's like doing it on a web browser. You know, when you go on a web browser and you're not like through an app and everything's slow and you're not getting real time quotes, and that's my big complaint about Schwab. But I mean,
E-Trade's mobile app is pretty garbage too, to be honest with you. I think a lot of them are. You know, I think they just are. It's hard to put all that information on such a small screen and configure it. You would think nowadays they'd be able to, but I'll be honest with you. I don't really do too much trading from my phone. I mean, I grab my laptop with me at all times, and if I got to just pull over and use a hotspot and pop it open, I will, you know. But I usually get out of my swing trades, my momentum trades, or don't even tap into them if I got something that I got to go to that I can't have full eyes on. You know, that's the thing. It's too much to watch. But I wanted to bring up what co-creator, he had some very complex questions in regards to somehow it got staked. And he's talking about Ethereum, I'm assuming. But he also added Stellar, which kind of threw me off.
So, is that this one right here?
Crypto app. So from what I'm under the impression of staking it is because Ethereum 2.0 is coming out. And so basically when you kind of stake your Ethereum itself, it kind of, first off, you grow more interest on it. You know what? I'm going to look into this before I misspeak here. That's something you got to contact their customer service, because if you're trying to cash out and now it's staked, I don't know the process and if they're taking money on reversing that course or how that works. I'll be honest with you. And as far as it not being user friendly, I mean, it's the only one I've used on a mobile device, co-creator. So I could be wrong. Maybe there are better ones out there. I guess sometimes you get stuck with what you use in the first hand, and it just seems easier to you. But I'll be honest with you. You got to take a look into you got to contact support on this, man. That seems like a pretty big ordeal. Straight up.
All right, I think we're pretty caught up in here. Should E-Trade owned by Morgan Stanley?
Correct.
Equitab says use Fidelity.
Morgan Stanley now does analysis on E-Trade as well now.
Okay, so
it's pretty cool.
One thing I'll say just before we switch off the trading software thing, if you I would say try it out, bro. Like you could sign up for a free account through TD Ameritrade. Just set up a brokerage account. You don't even got to deposit any money, and you get access to this Thinkorswim software. It's pretty cool. Thinkorswim on the iPhone at least, it's awesome. My neighbor's got an Android, which I think Androids suck in general. And I've looked at it. I've looked at the app on there, and it's a little bit confusing for me. But
it's so funny how people are so against one or the other. It's like if you get an iPhone, I've never really ran into people that went back to an Android. However, on the flip side, I've heard of people getting Androids and then coming right back to iPhones. The simplicity, the way it runs on an iPhone, to me is a no-brainer. But again, if you started off with that Android, maybe that's something that keeps you in that same boat. What's comfortable for you. Couple things we want to bring up before we get caught up on digital this whole conversation, because I did not see this coming. I know we were talking about calls. There was a couple people that messaged me after our morning stream.
Okay.
On a lot of platforms too. It's like on Reddit, on Twitter. It was weird. I got messages from like every platform. Any way y'all can get a hold of me, please do. I love the questions. So I had brought up today all-time high calls that I call them. ATH calls, I call them. And I want to start from scratch. Coach, you're very nasty when it comes to call games. And so I want to start from scratch, from shares and calls, because a lot of these questions I'm getting are people that have literally never done their first call before. So can we first off, for the record, just say, if you're going to mess with calls, give yourself time on the expiration while you're learning. Expect to lose in the midst of this, and start off as small as humanly possible, because one call is 100 shares. Depending on that IV, the implied volatility is how expensive those calls can be. You go with a call on Tesla, you could spend up to $100 per call, per share. You know what I mean? It gets nuts. So, I'll let you start off this convo as far as breaking it down from A to Z so they could really fully understand. And then I'll give an analogy that I think helps a lot of the people that I talk with offline understand exactly what a call is all about.
Well, so actually, I mean, I just recently created a playlist, options basics playlist, and I'll throw that in the chat real quick. It's I think it's about 10 videos, and it absolutely just breaks down. I mean, I took the time. Each video is probably 8 to 15 minutes long, and I went through the basics of what a call contract is, the basics of what a put contract, what IV is, what implied volatility is, broke down there, all the Greeks, all that kind of stuff. But essentially, just so we can continue this conversation tonight, basically what a call contract or, any sort of options contract has to do with 100 underlying shares, right? And you're paying a premium for the opportunity to, if we're talking about buying calls, you're paying a premium up front, which you'll never see again, for basically a coupon to buy those shares in the future. Now, you don't necessarily have to buy those shares in the future. As the stock price goes up and so many other things happen, the price of that contract will fluctuate. And that's where you could trade your contract. So you might buy a contract today for $200, and then tomorrow the stock goes up 10%, and now all of a sudden that contract's worth $600. And your contract may still have 5 months left on it, but at that point you're up 300%. Why not sell it and keep it moving? You know what I mean? So I guess, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is like, right from the start, is a lot of people come into options contracts thinking that, if I buy this contract for 60 days from now, basically my goal is for this option to end up in the money and expire in the money. Like, I'd say 90% of the time, probably even more than that, I'm not even looking to exercise anything. I'm looking to cut. If I buy an options contract that's 60 days out, I'm looking to sell that thing 30 days out. You know what I mean? It's yeah. And there's way more that goes into it, but I know the all-time high thing that you were talking about. I mean, let's I think I really like it as a play, especially when you're talking
So
about how far out and everything.
yeah, so I'll touch base with this. So like the way I'm able to kind of explain the difference between the two, it's like when you buy a share, you're basically saying like, I think the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl this year, right? And it's a good long season, right? When you buy a call, it's like saying, I think the Steelers are going to win week 1 opening night. And what happens is at the end of week 1, that's it. It expired. If they lost, you lost. However much money you risked. If you bet $110 to win $100, the Steelers are going to win their opening night and they lose, that's it. You lose. It's done. There's no going back. You can't change it, the whole 9 yards. Now, with calls themselves, there's so many different ways to play it. So what I learned with playing with calls, that there's actually a really safe way, in a sense, that I've ran into. So I'll break it down like this. At one point, I had a Twitter account earlier this year because so many people were blowing me up, telling me, dude, you need to like tell people this call hustle you have. It's so nasty. And so I was just tweeting every single time I did a move, which call I did, what was the strike price, what expiration date I chose, etc. So what ends up happening for me is it was just too much going on for me to keep up. So I disregarded the account and ended up getting locked out of it. And it was just a long story short, I moved on. But I will say this. I was 16 for 17. The only one I didn't win, in a sense, on specific realm, was I took a 2-cent loss. And it was because I saw a better place elsewhere. So let me break down what I do. This is like from start to finish. I only do calls on stocks that I have done enough research on that I can kind of get a feel for what they're doing. I don't necessarily do calls on companies like BBIG today. I'm not going to do a call. I'd rather buy shares and then just kind of lower my average as it dipped a little bit today and then kind of hold it for a few days and see if I can pick up some type of trend. I only do calls on stocks I know. That's my first rule that I abide by. Penn, CLOV, and DraftKings are the only 3 companies that I have calls on right now after Lemonade and Tesla, and there was another one, and apps. Those 3 I already sold. So what I do is very simple. I look at the all-time high of a stock, okay? We'll just say, for example, DraftKings. It was $75, its all-time high.
Yep.
When Hindenburg put out a report and the stock dropped into the 30s, I knew right away there's no way that this corporation, DraftKings, who's already gone to court and trial to fight for the fact that they have not gambling in states right now, but a fantasy prize pool approach. For the states that don't allow gambling, they won. They won the trial, they won, and they've always talked about, we're excited to express how this is not a form of gambling. There's skill. Jason, the CEO, talked about the turf and in a dome and how these individuals have strengths and weaknesses, and you could actually make a good play on who you choose. That it's a skill set versus a gamble. So I believe that regardless of any acquisitions from Hindenburg, that this company is still going to move on and pass their all-time high in the long run. So I can't express it enough. When a stock falls hard, there's a reason for it. Whether that reason is valid or not, there's still a reason for it. So with DraftKings, I saw it hit 75 at an all-time high. I've already followed it since it hit 18 when it came out as a SPAC, as a reverse merger last year. And I'll tell you something. When it drops 10% in one day, and I'm scavenging looking for why it just dropped 10% in one day, those are the times I add the calls. And then if it still continues to skid, I'm adding more calls. Anytime I see a company that is 30% off of its all-time high, and there's no like concrete, oh, they just lost money. Oh, they just got an official lawsuit and lost. Or, oh, there has to be some legitimate reason on why their market cap just dropped 30%. And if I can't find that, I'm dropping a couple calls. And I don't, below my load, I might go, okay, I'm going to set aside $5,000 on DraftKings for calls. And that's usually the pocket I keep. I keep $5,000 in side money for legitimately DraftKings and DraftKings only. I already own a shit ton of shares, but I keep $5,000 in the tank. And what I do is I buy 1 call or 2 calls. If it continues to drip, buy 3 calls, buy 4 calls. Continues to drip, buy an extra 2, 3 calls. By that time, I have $5,000 in. I've lowered my median, and guess what? Eventually, we see what it did this last couple of weeks.
Okay, so
38-40 range back up to the
So I get the first part of it, right? So you're targeting companies that are undervalued or experience, a dip, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, they dip off no news. The company still looks strong, all that kind of stuff. So that's the first part. Now, how far out do you go with these calls?
Next rule of thumb for me is I look at when their last earnings was. If earnings is coming up, I got to go at least 2 earnings calls minimum is my play.
So at least 6 months, maybe 9 months.
Yeah. So if earnings is coming up in a week, I'm going to go 2 additional. So 3 earnings calls technically. So it'll be probably 7 months or 6 months in a week, right? If earnings just occurred, and sometimes that's when I catch my calls. I see earnings happen. I watched Nike, for example, Foot Locker, for example, for like 2-3 days as it starts to trickle down. Boom, I drop my calls and make my play. And so it's usually at least 6 months out, minimum 6 months out. That way, the first run up to earnings, I usually get a chance to collect it. And if it doesn't really do its thing after the first earnings, and I'll probably be adding 2 after that first earnings comes. And then by the time the next run of earnings, I should get some action.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Especially when, like you said, I think the important key there's 2 things that you talked about. One, you're going with companies that you're familiar with. So if, the kind of the feel for the company and that the company should be trending upwards. And if you're giving yourself 6 to 9 months, the big thing that's going to screw you there would be just some sort of market crash, right? But other than that, most stocks, even if it's a sector rotation, no matter what's going on, at some point, even if they dip a little bit, you can always buy a little bit more and average in, but you still have 7 more months before for the stock to turn around. And when that turnaround happens, and I could tell you just out of experience, like with DraftKings, because I had some DraftKings as well that I actually timed up perfectly with exactly what you were talking about. And I just heard about this strategy today, but I had the same exact thing. I had DraftKings. I was underneath all-time highs. So you're saying all-time highs, so it would have been like the 75 strike. I had the 65. But I mean, just in DraftKings moving up over the last couple weeks, those calls ended up being worth 300, 400%. So if you were to put $500 in, they're worth $1,500 today, $2,000 today. I want to break it up. Sorry to cut you off. I want to break it up too. That's an all-time high strategy I use. When I'm doing calls on corporations that I'm extremely long on, like CLOV, I'm not going 6 months out. I'm actually in 2023 on every call I have for CLOV. So I want to make that clear too. The all-time high strategy I have is the 6 to 9 months out. Companies I'm invested in and I want to go long on, like CLOV, I have longer calls. Even DraftKings, I have July of 2022 on some of my expirations recently. So carry on, my fault. I just wanted to make sure that they don't think that's the only way to do the calls. Oh yeah, no, but I do think that real quick. Zeke for Bleak just joined the channel. Thank you, Zeke. I know, and I'm not going to go too far because we might run out of time here today. But I do want to say, so I do have a membership for my channel. It's $5 a month. Once I get my merchandise store up, you'll get discounts on merchandise. I'm adding in some custom emojis. You get a cool little badge next to your name, and then eventually I'm going to start doing some educational live streams where members can actually ask questions in the chat and like a members only chat type of deal. So anyways, thank you, Zeke. I appreciate it. But yeah, so getting into the exactly what you're talking about. Like, I mean, there's different strategies for where you want to get it at or whatever, but when you give yourself enough time, like you're saying, 6 to 9 months, getting a couple of earnings calls in, finding that price target that works. And I think all time highs is a good one. It gives you time. It gives you time, and there's way less theta decay because you're way far out, and it's like
they're very inexpensive too when you're going from a $40 to a $75 strike.
Yeah.
And if you follow the stock enough, remember, we're not trying to have it hit 75 before we cash out. Because I know Ekatab, he was asking, how do you kind of get out of it? So I always buy an even amount for starters. I never buy odd amounts. I always buy an even amount. That way I can sell half when it's officially 100%ed. And then I'll let the second half roll to reduce my risk and exposure, since now it's house money. And I will stagger that out, maybe one call at a time on every nice pop that I might get.
See what I do. I mean, I've done that too. It depends on where I'm at, right? Like, so if I'm in more of a shorter term contract, let's say it's got like, weeks to a couple months left, and I get to that point to where, like, let's say I have 10 of them and I could sell, like you're saying, 5, and now I'm covered and I'm playing with house money, I might let the other ones ride to continue to move up. But then sometimes, like what I just did with my DraftKings ones was, I had 10 calls. All 10 calls were at a 300+% profit. So at that point, what I'll do is I bought those calls. They were $65 strikes for $2 a piece, right? I sold them all. And now what I did was I went higher up in the options chain and went for the $85 strike, and I was able to get those for $2 a piece. So I'm still in DraftKings with 10 calls, and for a $2,000 investment. But basically, if you look at it, was this: I put $2,000 into the first investment at the $65 strike. I was able to sell those today for, I think, $6,500, somewhere around there. So that's 3 times my money. Now I put $6,500 in my pocket, but immediately went out and bought $2,000 more, 10 more contracts of DraftKings. So now I'm still riding DraftKings. Now I want it to go higher. But I think the important thing to think about is this: those were February expirations, right? We're in August right now. So you don't need to have that mindset of, I still got until, February for this to play out. Like, shit, I sold it today. DraftKings is trading at around $60. That's way far away from my strike price, but it's profitable. Take your profits, especially with options, because you gotta always gotta lock in some profits. And I think both ways are good. The way you said,
yes,
or rolling it out, as long as you're putting some profit or covering your cost basis. You know what I mean?
And let's bring this in full circle. You ready, Coach? When you follow a stock like DraftKings, the stock went from 18 to 20 to 30 to 40. It was no stopping it to 50, and then got humbled back down to 35. Then it goes back up to 50, 60, 70, 75, and then gets humbled back down to 40. So there's plenty of time. We always have this feeling of like we have to make a decision now. And look, I've sold calls and been like, ooh, I don't think I should be selling this because I think it's going to continue to run. But I'm either up my 40% or I'm up my 1,000, and that's my rule on these all-time highs. Guess what? Tomorrow it might get knocked off its high horse, and I could buy back in then. I've never rolled calls personally because normally when I'm winning on that call, to roll it, I'm now paying an expensive premium on that next batch I'm kind of getting myself into. So I've always been like, yo, look, I'll sell half, let the other roll. It's free, it's profits. And if I see a specific amount that just makes me feel like, all right, now it's starting to kind of taper down a bit, let me pull the rest out now and take in my profits. Now I'm just waiting for another time for this to occur. And it's always this feeling you get. It's never going to happen again, man. I should have kept my DraftKings call, man. It's never going to be below 50 again. I knew it. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, Hindenburg research comes out. It's in the 40s again. You're like, yes, now it's my turn.
Yep.
I'm going in for the kill. And I'm snapping them like that on a whole bunch of them. Every
opportunities.
Stock I follow hard, I'm snapping on them. And I promise you, I'm not going to sit up here and lie to kick it, you guys. I promise you, I'll have people vouch that'll come in the chat when I start to share the word. I promise you, there's a strategy that works. Not saying that you should do it without researching. Remember, I know a lot about the trends on these actual companies to why I have so much confidence on when I'm buying these calls. and when I'm also getting rid of them. It's the hardest thing to understand, coach, when you're new to shit and you sell and you're like, and you watch it go up and you're like,
You just
but I'm
got to
telling you
turn.
right
You just
now,
got to, if you made profit, that's what I learned too, man. Is if you made profit and you were happy with the profit and that's why you sold, do yourself a favor and don't even look at it. You can glance back at it
yes,
a couple weeks later, a couple months later. It maybe look for a re-entry, but don't start looking right away because you made the right decision by taking profit. No matter,
honestly,
and that's really what it comes down to.
this is why I set that limit, by the way, the 40% and the 1,000, because there's times where I can do trades on DraftKings, like depending on how volatile it is. I've had weeks before where I've done like bought calls on a Monday, sold on a Tuesday, bought more on a Wednesday, sold a Friday. There's so many pockets of it if you're looking at heavy swings when it's volatile. I did this with Lemonade hard, and you know what I mean. It was like there's times where you can literally make a killing, but that's why I set my goals of 40% or 1,000, right? When it hits 40% or 1,000 and I only have one or two calls and I haven't got a chance to DCA because it just keeps going up since the day I bought it, I'm taking my profits, because what you're able to do is you build this $5,000 pool you have on the side for DraftKings. All of a sudden I have 10 grand now segregated to DraftKings. Well, then CLOV's dipping and I'm like, yo, I could take 5 grand off this now, which is profits, and I'm deploying this on CLOV. On paper, my median might be this on CLOV, but technically I put 5 grand of free money from DraftKings in this. All of a sudden, you're really not paying the same per share that is on paper per se. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways to kind of finagle that too.
Hey, so I know we get a lot of talk to. I'm excited as we move forward. We got so much to talk about. We're just touching the tip of the iceberg on a lot of this stuff. But because one of the themes of this show too is sports, man. We're kind of running out of time. I think we should move into sports a little bit too. But before we do, for everyone watching, or maybe someone who's watching the repeat later, I did put links to Ghost and myself's Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube channel. Please go follow YouTube. I know co-creator just said that as well. Make sure you
thank you, Co.
Go follow Ghost channel. But so sports, we got NFL coming up, right? Obviously, me and you are both big NFL fans. You can tell by, I'm a Niner fan, you're a Steeler fan. And you mentioned earlier we got fantasy football. Some people have already drafted, some people, myself, I got a couple drafts upcoming this week. What are you thinking? Like, how do you want to do this? I would say, let's say you could pick any player you want at quarterback, running back, and receiver. Who's your top guys? Who you going for? So,
right now it's kind of Mahomes has been pretty obvious from a QB standpoint. However, there's some in the mix that could do some work. You got Allen from the Bills, you got Lamar Jackson from the Ravens. You got some heavy hitters in there. Don't get it misconstrued. But I actually have a breakout candidate QB that I actually drafted this year that I think is going to surprise a lot, and that's Jalen Hurts. The run game, his arms slinging them. I think this is the year he comes on the map like, yo, I'm here.
Philly. All right. Yeah. I like it. I think Patrick Mahomes on that same tip. I think everybody would agree that he's probably like the safest guy if you can get him on your fantasy team. Absolutely. And then obviously, I think the next three that I saw when I was looking at lists, a lot of them are like Josh Allen, your Lamar Jackson. Kyler Murray's name's in there, but I don't know that I really like Kyler Murray, only because I really like him as an athlete. But I feel like, and I might be biased, but I feel like the Niners defense is going to be tough this year. I feel like the Seahawks defense is going to be tough this year. And Arizona has been really coming on to, or he plays for Arizona. I'm tripping right now. But you got the Rams. They got Aaron Donald. Yeah. They got, so if you look at the NFC West and the division they play in, I think it's going to be rough for, all quarterbacks in the NFC West. So it'd be hard to go with Kyler Murray up front. But if I had to pick an NFC West quarterback for me, and you start talking about value, like how you're talking about Hurts, I would say Matt Stafford, you can get a late round pick at, or I mean, you can't go wrong with Russell Wilson. I mean, and I know he's not really a late round guy though. He's more like a middle of the pack. But I'm interested to see what Matt Stafford does. You got a veteran dude coming into the Rams.
Journey.
Yeah.
New team, new journey, great defense. They're stacked. I mean, I could see Matt Stafford having a ball out year. The thing with me is Matt Stafford, Drew Brees, these were all, Tom Brady's. These were all the let's get these points. But I don't think a pass, three-step drop back quarterback is like really fantasy relevant almost right now. That's why Russell Wilson, that's why, Murray, that's why even Josh Allen's got legs, man. I think that element of the game is so impactful now because you're almost getting a free running back tagged in when you got a Mahomes or, and Jalen Hurts, man. I got top scorer last year in my fantasy, and I actually ended up picking him up off the bench at some point last year when I think Wentz went down. So I think there's a lot of bias.
He's talking about me because I'm assuming. Yeah. I don't get me wrong. I think Murray's dope, but I don't know if I would pick him at the third pick. You know what I mean? Like if it was like, I just feel like that's considering the defenses he has to go against. I think it's going to be rough, but
he hasn't really proved himself to me. And even their receiving core is like, they're kind of, we'll see. We'll see. I think that they've made some adjustments. If I go to the running back realm, this one was a tough one for me this year. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey was like pretty much number one on a lot of boards I saw. I think that hands down, he's the dual threat in the game where you're just knowing it. But his injuries last year kind of scared me. The fact that they've worked him so hard kind of put me at a little bit of a fear with him, I guess is the best way to say it. So.
He's projected right now number one from everybody, and I mean I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean I think I want to say he's the number one dude, and that's who I picked. But let's go with somebody else. Who else would it be? Who's that? Dalvin Cook, Minnesota. Yeah, I mean I'm interested to see. So mine would be when you're talking about those top dudes. I'm interested. Derrick Henry, obviously. I mean, that dude's a stud, but I'm interested to see what Kamara's leagues are going to be like this year without Breeze. How much more workload he's going to have to take on.
That's actually pretty solid.
But that also may end up playing into a favorable position for Kamara because you look at Christian McCaffrey from a fantasy standpoint. Why is Christian McCaffrey, besides the fact that he's so dope and he catches balls out of the backfield and everything else, which Kamara also does too, but why is it that McCaffrey scores all these fantasy points when he's healthy? It's because he's a one-man show over there, right? The better that the surrounding offense does, the less points he's going to get. And Kamara might be in that situation this year too. I mean, if you really think about it, without Breeze there, who knows how their offense is going to click, and it may be that I'm not saying that there's no other studs there, but he's going to probably be seeing a lot more touches.
I like that. I'm not going to lie, I like that. When I go running back, I like the safe floors, but I do like the explosiveness, which is why Christian McCaffrey's like the obvious choice. Kamara, that's actually Alvin Kamara or Kamara. That's actually a pretty good pick. You'll probably get him in the top 3, top 4. Maybe get him top 3, top 4, maybe 5th round. I guess you might be able to snag him in, but for the most part, I think it's 1, 2, or 3 with those 3. To be honest with you.
So how about like a sleeper later round pick? You took it right out of my. You're already gonna go with who I was gonna say too. So go ahead with it.
I love rookie running backs that are like scheduled to be that bell cow. The fact that James Conner's now gone. I could see him beasting. And so Saquon Barkley was like that for me, his rookie year. Why am I drawing a blank right now? I'm drawing a blank. Saquon Barkley was that for me last
maybe Zeke?
No, it wasn't Zeke, but Zeke did the same kind of situation, right? You coming in knowing you're like that dude. And so I think he's a sleeper because he went 2nd round, like late. I think even maybe beginning of the 3rd round.
You're talking
and
about
it was
Najee
just like,
Harris, right? Just because
yeah,
we haven't
Najee
said his
Harris.
name yet, but I knew who
My
you were
fault.
talking about when you started grabbing his jersey. But
Oh, go ahead.
grabbing a jersey. But no,
Uh,
you said so. You said in your draft he went second round.
I think he went like second or third pick in the third round.
Dude, I
If I'm not
think
mistaken.
I honestly think, and I know we were gonna maybe talk about this later, but not only was he gonna be my pick for a kind of a sleeper or later down the list, like someone who's not listed as top 10, but I think he has a great opportunity of being rookie of the year this year too. I mean, Najee Harris is phenomenal. Like, and I don't know if you know this. I don't know if I ever said this, but I actually coached against him for 4 years. So
Wow.
he played for Antioch High School, which is our rival here, and so and he played varsity
cool.
all 4 years. So, he only beat us once. Just throw that out there. But
Yeah.
but I mean, he's insane. He was hurdling people and I mean, just absolutely insane watching this kid grow up from a freshman, and then watching him in college and watching him do the same things to college players that he was doing to high school players. And I don't think he's going to have any issue doing it in the NFL either. So that would be my pick for rookie of the year and for a late round fantasy pick, or not even late. I mean, you're saying he went third, but I guess what I would say is if you didn't get one of the top 5 running backs, I might even jump ahead and get him at number 6 or something. You know what I mean? I'm really high on him.
If you don't get top 5, I'm switching gears to receiver first, which is actually I ended up getting Saquon 8th pick.
Okay.
And I was like, it's risky. He might be a little banged up to start the year, but 8th pick, I wanted to go running back route. But you could even think about getting a receiver first round and then maybe dropping to him, round 2. He fell hard on my league. But if we go receiver, Tyreek Hill for me, and if it's PPR, Tyreek Hill it's just dumb. I mean, he's always going to find routes to take. His speed and efficiency is so ridiculous, and he's always good for that game once every 3 games that's just going to possibly win you the week. So I'm huge on Reek if I'm going top 3 picks I can get.
Yeah, and I was gonna. So I mean, all the lists I've been looking at, it's been Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. Since you went Tyreek Hill, I think Stephon Diggs. I would take Stephon Diggs or Tyreek Hill over Devontae Adams. I mean, I think with Josh Allen in Buffalo, I think Stephon Diggs. I think he's gonna have a great year too. What about kind of a later down the list type receiver? Someone
Much
that might
love,
be
co-creator, by the way. Much love, co. Appreciate you to the fullest.
All right, co-creator, we're gonna be signing off here soon. Anyways, we said we're gonna run these things till about 5:15, so an hour and 15 minutes. But so you're not missing much. But we just kind of do a little sports talk here. But who would be your late round receiver pick or later receiver pick? Someone not in the top 10.
Calvin Ridley was not in the top 10 receivers.
Yeah.
So I think Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson. I'd go with one of the Steelers, not because of being biased. I think, Chase Claypool is compared to like a Megatron. They call him the Mapletron. He's from Canada. And after seeing his rookie year, and now the Steelers have a run game, you can pretty much bet dude's going to post above 10 touchdowns and have a rock-solid year if it's not for injuries. But the receivers are stacked this year. I mean, there's so many receivers out there. I could tell you right now from my squad, just based upon what I was able to pick up. So I was able to get Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett. He's a boomer bust type of receiver, but in a half PPR, I liked him.
I like Lockett just because Metcalf, the bigger Metcalf gets, and I think Metcalf's probably going to be a top 3 receiver this year too. But I think the more that Metcalf gets, he's going to start, drawing all that double coverage, and it just opens shit up for Lockett. But yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on Lockett. I think my biggest sleeper pick, and I've seen a couple people, throw it in the chat already, is Antonio Brown. I know Octaviano's been talking about it for a while. You drafted him. Yeah, I mean, he only played half the season last year, and He was killing it. I want to say he was like a top 3 receiver in that second half of the season, and now you got him coming into a full season. The only issue there is they got a ton of weapons out there, right? So I mean, you got Gronk, you got I'm drawing blank right now because I know
you got Mike Evans, you got Gronk, you got
is it Godwin too or
Godwin? Yeah,
so he's in a kind of a crowded receiver core, but he got that speed and he could, I think Antonio Brown is going to be a huge sleeper pick this year.
We're talking about a man that had to get triple teamed in some cases when he was in Pittsburgh, like literally. So now you look at Mike Evans has to have a safety over the top. Godwin and AB, pick your poison. And you got to have respect on the inside for Gronk. So you're basically getting one-on-one coverage. And I'll tell you a fun fact about AB for those of you that don't know. He's a workaholic. This is why Tom Brady loves him so dearly. This is why when he went to New England, he was sleeping in Tom Brady's crib. When he went to Florida, he was at one point staying in Tom Brady's crib. The chemistry that they have and the workaholics that those two are is why AB's going to always get his touches. And especially when one of those two may go down. Now you're talking, which they're both prone to. Now you're talking about a wide receiver 1 on Tom Brady's side. It's a no-brainer to me. I think he's definitely a sleeper this year.
Yeah,
definitely. Hey, I think Deebo Samuel is too.
Ooh, hey, you know what? The Niners got some young receivers in Deebo and Ayuk and Kittle. So, but yeah, no, I'm with you on that too. So, hey, before we sign off today, I got a question for you. Now, I wasn't planning this, but when we're talking receivers, man, I'm in a crazy predicament, man. So I play in a keeper league, right? You keep one player at each position, and you take them into the next year. I kind of got screwed because I got Deshaun Watson and Drew Brees last year, so I'm keeping Deshaun Watson. I got to draft a QB, obviously. I'm keeping Christian McCaffrey, so I'm looking decent there. Which receiver would you keep? Tyler Lockett, Michael Thomas, Robert Woods.
So
it's kind of rough because it's like, we just talked about Tyler Lockett and how he was. Robert Woods, I think, is probably ranked the top out of all those guys, but they're pretty close. And Robert Woods got Matt Stafford now. What's the chemistry going to be like? And then Michael Thomas, the dude's a stud, but I think the big question is the QB, so it's like, I got to keep one.
So Tyler Lockett to me is the biggest boomer bust out of the 3. Like, he will go 2 games with 0 catches. And it's just invisible. Rain, bad weather, Seattle, who knows, right? So I'm eliminating Tyler Lockett, even though I drafted him. I'm eliminating Tyler Lockett. As far as between Michael Thomas and Woods. So you got Matt Stafford, which is new QB. Same with Winston being the QB in New Orleans. I'm going Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is a target hog, right? So he's a target hog. Like, he's getting his 15 catches. And remember Winston, or 15 targets. Winston, he don't give a shit. He's slinging it. How many times he's throwing the ball? 40, 50 times straight up for grabs. Michael Thomas will come down with some big plays. On top of him just being a phenomenal route runner, I would actually go Michael Thomas. Personally.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm leaning between the two, between Robert Woods and Thomas.
Matt Stafford, he's coming towards the end of his career, and we get blurry vision. The dude was throwing 500-yard games, for a few games in a row, and we almost get blurry vision. Like, unless he has a nasty line and a solid run game, there's an issue with him. And I'm not too convinced yet with the run game. Let's just say that. Well, I want to see.
And the defense is going to be tough in that division, like we talked about earlier. I think the defense in general, without getting too off topic, but I think the top quarterback in that division is pretty obvious. It's probably going to be Russell Wilson. And then, I think the rest, who knows what's going on with the Niners? You got Jimmy Garoppolo, but they're also going to be moving in Trey Lance. I know he got injured today, and he's supposed to be out for week 1 or 2. but they've been kind of doing that rotation with that. So I mean, I wouldn't go with either quarterback there. Matt Stafford, who knows how he's going to be at the new, just like you just said. You know, and Kyler Murray. Don't get me wrong. Actually, shit, I don't know. Kyler Murray's dope though. He is, but it's just I just don't know from a fantasy perspective if I would pick him in a top 3. You know what I mean?
No, I would not.
Because of the defenses he's going to have to face. You know, if I could get Russell Wilson as a, you know, the 10th QB off the board or something like that, shit, yeah, the value's just there.
Yeah, I'm going Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. I'm even going, believe it or not, over Kyle Murray. I'm even going Jalen Hurts. I'll be honest with you. I think Kyle Murray's like kind of proven himself, and he's a hog for points in PPR. But you know, he's a dual threat. But yeah, I'm not too convinced, to be quite honest with you either. Someone had a question for Thomas or Ridley. So we're talking Michael Thomas or Calvin Ridley. The fact that Julio is no longer in Atlanta, I'm going Ridley. I'm biased. That dude has got me mad points for 3 years in a row. But he proved that he could play without Julio on the other side. So I think Ridley is going to get you more target share. And yeah, I think I'd go Ridley, believe it or not.
All right.
Tough
Hey,
one.
I hate to do this. I got to sign off because like I said, I was going to get off at 5:15 and I still got to go make dinner and everything else. But it seems like, you know, just based on the chat, everybody was getting into the sports. We might have to kick the sports off a little bit earlier. And you guys that are watching, and I know some people are going to be, we kind of lost a lot of the viewers, it looks like, here at the end. I think just because it's later in the day. But even if you're watching this on repeat, go into the comments of the video and let us know what you thought. If you got suggestions for another video, something that, you know, on the next one, what topics you want us to cover. You know, if you want to hear something specifically like about fantasy football or maybe daily fantasy or sports betting, or if you want to hear more about options plays or crypto or what it is that you guys are looking for in this. Because like I said, this is the pilot episode. So please give us some feedback. All right. What you want to close us out, Ghost?
100% Yeah, sure, man. Hey, this was fun. Pilot's underway. Moving forward, just want to remind everybody, next week is Labor Day, so we are doing a Tuesday episode, same time, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard. For those of you that only want to talk about the financial aspect of stocks, digital currency, real estate, etc., be on time at 4. We're going to always lead it off with the financial side, so probably about 4:45. And then from 4:45 to 5:15, if you're here for just strictly sports, come at 4:45 to 5:15. That way you're not putting up an hour and 15 minutes if you care one over the other. But either way, we will be talking financial strategies on the sports gambling side of it once the season gets closer to becoming underway. We're doing fantasy only for the pilot and preseason for next week because there's a lot of moving parts in football. A lot of things will change. But remember, Tuesday, next week, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard, 7 o'clock Eastern, same spot.
And make sure you go subscribe to Ghost channel, because once we get things rolling, we're probably going to be flipping back and forth. That way, you know, it'll be 1 week here, 1 week on Ghost, you know, and moving it back and forth. So make sure you subscribe to both of us. Octaviano saying 4:45 Pacific time. Oh, that's for the sports side of it, right? Yeah, Pacific. So Eastern will be 7:45. So me and Ghost are both in California, so we start at 4 p.m. 7 p.m. for you. I know Octaviano's up there in Boston, I believe. So yeah, but
Pacific Standard, 4 o'clock to 5:15.
4 o'clock on the West Coast. All right, guys. Thank you again. We'll see you guys next week, hopefully, and also you know, check me out in the mornings. I'll be streaming tomorrow morning as well at 5 a.m. West Coast.
Hey, real quick before we sign out, if you guys are asking questions and we don't get to them, it's because we talk a lot, especially me. Forgive me. Please join us on Twitter at Coach B Stocks, and I'm at IamGhostAF. Please join us because you can ask us questions after questions after questions offline too. We're always available for you guys. Appreciate y'all coming out to the pilot preseason next week, Tuesday. See y'all then.
All right.
Be easy, coach.
Later.